G'day folks. I had a bit of a issue with the compost cage that I showed in a clip a couple of weeks ago, so I thought I'd give you a bit of a look at how I had to rebuild it to get it cooking again and give you a bit of a whip around the garden just to show you how things are growing. So this is the little compost cage. I gave you a quick look at how it was knocked together a couple of clips ago. It's pretty basic. It's just mulched up weed trees from around our property, as well as some horse manure that we bought in, and some other bits and pieces from around the patch, like some old grass that I chopped up. It was cooking along nicely. We had between 50 and 60 degrees in there, which means there's a lot of bacterial activity, and normally what I would do is just leave the cage be. Things would slowly break down in there, and once the cage stops cooking, we get the compost worms move in and they finish off the job. And we always had really good results with the compost we've used from this cage method. Now, this time around, I thought I'd take the advice of so many people who say you can't make compost that way, you need to turn it. So I got my handy dandy little compost screw and I turned the cage, and within 24 hours it stopped cooking and the temperature went down to around about 30 degrees Celsius. So there was a little bit of heat in there, but not to the level you need to kill off any weed seeds or other pathogens that are in the blend. So the reason I think it cooled down and it didn't start cooking again is because the trees that I mulched to go in this time didn't have a lot of leaves in it because they're deciduous. Normally the Chinese Celtis has a load of green leaf matter on there, which is a lot of nitrogen, which helps to complement the horse manure, and that keeps the whole process cooking. So what I think I'll do is we'll turn the pile again, the next cage I make, but I'll make sure that there is a load of green leafy material mixed in there, so there's enough nitrogen to kickstart it again once I turn it, aerate it. Basically the reason I wanted to turn it was to get a lot of the dry material from the outside into the center to help that break down as well. And it also adds a lot more oxygen down the bottom for the bacteria to consume, to help them break down the carbon and the nitrogen and all the other goodies in there. So that's why it failed, I think, just not enough nitrogen. So the only way I could see to fix this was really just to empty out the cage and start again. So I emptied all the material out into that half IBC over there and a little bathtub down the back there, which, you know, was really good too because it mixed a lot of the horse manure through the tree material and the grass that I had in there. So once it was out, I decided, oh, by the way, I emptied it to around about halfway between those two rails there. Once it was out, I decided to add in some chicken manure that I bought for the purpose because it's fairly high in nitrogen, and also some aged horse manure, which wasn't so high in nitrogen. So that went in there, and then I covered it up with probably around about 10 centimeters or 100 mils or 4 inches worth of the material that I'd removed, and then did another layer of the chicken manure and then also the horse manure again. And in between those layers I also gave it a good hose down just to make sure that there was enough moisture for the bacteria to do their job. I got to around about halfway up the cage and decided there wasn't really enough chicken manure to activate it. So I added in some of this urea pelletized fertilizer that I bought for running the aquaponics system. You can also use it for cycling the aquaponics system. It's water soluble, so what I did was I got about a cup of that, popped it into the handy dandy watering can, and then just put round about 9 litres and 1 cup of that urea, and I just poured that over the top mulch layer, and that pretty much will ran down to the lower levels, giving some nitrogen in there. Now unfortunately my camera ran out of battery just before that, so I didn't capture that bit, but I kept going up further and further, adding in layers of the urea fertilizer, probably about quarter to half a cup at a time after I ran out of the chicken manure, all the way up to the top. Now as a result, I'm pretty happy to say that we have some action in here again. We are now up to, where are we, round about 65 degrees, which looks to be just shy of 150. So that's at the top, and I'm getting pretty much all the same reading at the bottom. Funnily enough, when I did start to measure it, it was much warmer at the bottom. It was probably around about 50 degrees and round about 30 degrees at the top. That was on Friday, and then Saturday I came out here and took a couple more readings, and I had about 50 degrees at the top and about 65-70 degrees down the bottom. So yeah, obviously the urea has done the trick, along with the horse manure and the chook manure. So we now have the cage cooking again, and no, I'm not going to be turning it again. I'm just going to leave it sit here and let it cool down, let the earthworms and the compost worms move in, and let them do their job as well, and then I'll use it to top dress a few different beds around the patch. But I thought I'd just give you that little bit of a tip about restarting the piles using some urea fertilizer if you don't have a lot of nitrogen on hand. I mean, it was nothing, just to grab a little bit, pop her in the watering can and sprinkle it in. And I dare say that if I'd thought of that earlier, I probably could have reactivated the whole pile just by doing that. Taking probably only about a third of it out, giving it a good drench with the urea mix, and then popping it up and giving it another drench. Probably would have done the same job, but anyway, that's what I ended up doing. I'll give you a bit of a gander at the rest of the garden now, show you how she's coming along. We're still getting peas. These are a snap pea, so Bianca pretty much will uses these as a snack at the moment. We don't use a lot in our cooking. When we have a salad, we'll chop up half a dozen or so and put them on each plate. This bed here, we're still getting a load of broccoli side shoots off these two plants here, and we have more up over there in the veggie pod. We got a nice bowl of side shoots the other night, so pretty much well, off of 6 plants we got enough for 2 to 3 meals worth of broccoli sides. Down here we have our cauliflowers. These guys are starting to struggle in the heat at the moment. We've had a couple of days up around about 28 degrees, so they've found it a little bit difficult. They wilt during the day and then bounce back at night. Over here in this bed we did have some very tall dill, but we decided that it was shading the garlic too much and actually crushing some of the garlic. So yeah, it hasn't done the best this season, only the outside areas that got a bit of sunlight. So took the dill all the way back. We have a load of dry dill up in the house, so we'll just use that for the time being. And yeah, hopefully we'll get 1 or 2 decent cloves or bulbs from this Glenlarge garlic. Just to show you, these little plants that we shaded out by the dill down the front here, they didn't do much chop either. Next bed over, we are starting to see some flowers form on our Chinese red shallots, so we will be saving seeds from these guys. I've never had them go to seed before, but the plants themselves, they look like they're putting on a bit of size. Normally, like any other shallot, they'll divide and send off little bulblets around the outside. So they're what we were mainly growing them for, but yeah, we'll be happy with some seeds. And our little chives down in the corner are taking off nicely. And we also have some borage and some calendula over there and another stray cauliflower. This is our little kaffir lime. If it's not the grasshoppers smashing through the leaves, it's us pinching them off for meals. Yeah, so it's going to live in a pouch for now, but eventually we would like to get it out into the ground. The next bed has, it's a bit of a hodgepodge. It's got our next crop of snap peas coming through, another borage, another stray cauliflower, some all year round basil, which does well in our climate here. It doesn't really have the same zing of the sweet basil that most of us are familiar with, but it's got enough basil-y flavour that, yeah, pop through a salad, it tastes pretty sweet. Still prefer the sweet basil. And the carrots here are doing pretty well. And down along the front the other day, I sowed another row of seeds. So we'll get a bit of a succession harvest out of these guys. Hopefully these guys won't grow fast enough to shade them out. Oh, and over the top, I just did a sprinkling of sugarcane mulch. So yeah, looking forward to some freshly harvested carrots soon. Oh, I also sprinkled some up in the aquaponics as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they go. And up here we have our other snap peas. These are the ones that have done the best for us in this bed here. There's probably only about 4 or 5 plants, and we've had them in for a number of months now. And I'm really happy with the way they've gone. Normally we get powdery mildew on these guys in the 2nd month. Yeah, it's only just started to come on in the last week or so, but we're not too concerned about it because yeah, these plants are pretty much all at the end of their life. They're not really producing a load of flowers anymore, and they are starting to die off a little bit, even though the whole bed has been watered a few times with some organic liquid fertilizers, and the other plants in here look to be going okay. I've got some more tatsoi around the back here. The only one that isn't doing or hasn't done well the whole time is this eggplant, but then again we are in winter and it was transplanted from out the front, but it's slowly starting to bounce back, as you can see. Yeah, so I think these peas are just pretty much all coming to the end of their life, and they will be pulled out soon. We'll probably wait until we stop seeing these small flushes of flowers come out. There's not really a lot on there at the moment, but such is. I'll give you folks a bit of an update on Lizzie as well. She's a beautiful old deer, but she's getting rather long in her tooth. And I'll just throw this ball for you and you might be able to see what I mean. We'll try that again. Hey Lizzie, I'll just throw this ball for her and you might be able to see what I mean. She's not moving too well at the moment. Her back legs keep giving out. We've been to the vets. She's on turmeric. She's on all those remedies everyone keeps recommending to us. Plus she's on some pharmaceutical bits and pieces. And yeah, she's just not doing too well. She's just getting old. She's also got a moderately severe heart murmur as well, so we try not to overdo it. So she's just an old pup. She's a rescue dog. For you folks who don't know the story of Lizzie, we decided to take her on because apparently in the pound, black dogs don't get rehomed a lot, and yeah, we're rather fond of the Kelpies. So I don't like throwing the ball too much for her because it's just tuckering her out too much. And yeah, she really does need to rest a bit, but I'll leave her be. But yeah, there are a number of folks who are interested in how Lizzie's going. I'll give you a quick look at another dear old lady, and that's this lemon tree over here. It's a dwarf lemon, and as you can see, it's also been smashed by the grasshoppers that get the kaffir lime, and we also get a couple of caterpillars on here as well. But she has loads of flowers on, and I just noticed she has a couple of bees visiting her as well, so we'll probably get a couple of fruit off her this year. Over the back here we have our cardamom that looks to be growing okay through winter. It will end up in a spot in the yard. And down here we have our Australian native ginger. That one sort of hangs on through winter but doesn't put on too much new growth, and we didn't see any flowers off this one this year, which is a bit disappointing, but such is. So just to give you a bit of a quick update on what's going on around the house as well. I've started off a load of seeds. I've actually got a rather large tray a mate gave me. Thank you very much, Mark. I've filled it all with soil, but I've only planted out the first 5 of these cells, and the idea is I'm just going to pop them out as they're ready to transplant, and I'll just continually successively sow seeds in here so we have continual harvests, or plants to plant out and then harvest. We have some coral lettuce and some rabbit ear lettuce that I've saved. The seeds are a couple of years old, so I don't know how well they're going to germinate. Then I have some purchase seeds. We have 2 rows of 5 pak choi, and then we have 2 rows of 5 bok choy. Then we have 2 rows of 5 Chinese chives, and then some Chinese kale down the end there, and some French marigold. Again, some old saved seed. I don't know if they're going to germinate or not, but fingers crossed they will. And just over here we have a couple of very damaged nasturtiums we bought while we were touring around Noosa yesterday. Bianca's birthday, so she wanted to go for a bit of a drive, and yeah, picked up these from a roadside stall. I just didn't pack them in the boot well enough, so they got knocked around a fair bit, but they should bounce back fine. I'll pop one in the aquaponics and the other one will end up somewhere down the back in a soil patch, and we'll save the seeds from them and yeah, plant them around later on. Just over here with the mushrooms, you can see that we've already done a bit of a harvest. We took off around about 500 grams with the first flush, and the second one I took off this morning and ended up with around about 300 grams. We only have that one over there on the right up the back there that's fruiting at the moment. That one on the other side of that bag there terminated for whatever reason. We have a feeling we might have high carbon dioxide levels in here that may be affecting the fruit. Because the little humidifier down the bottom there has been working really well. We've managed to keep the humidity around about 80%, so we're pretty chuffed with that. So all these bags too, by the way, will be broken up later on today with some sterilised hands and some sterilised containers, fed up with some wheat bran and some more calcium hydroxide solution, and then set back downstairs with the buckets, just so they can recolonise again, and hopefully we'll get a second flush out of them. Oh, the buckets, by the way, they're looking really good. The sugarcane one now has a nice thick layer of mycelium all over the top, as does the wood chip bucket, so hopefully in a couple of weeks' time we'll be able to bring them upstairs here and set them up somewhere so we can get them to fruit as well. So I hope you enjoyed that little bit of a vlog looking at how I fixed up that compost cage, and also a bit of a tour around the garden here. Would like to thank you all for continuing to come along and suss out these garden vlogs, even though a lot of you are here for the aquaponics and whatnot. Thank you very much for coming by. It'd be great if you could thumb up the clips, and yeah, leave a comment down below and say good day. Really appreciate that. Many thanks also too for you awesome people who are supporting us through the Farm Your Own Yard membership page, and also those folks over on the YouTube membership platform. Thank you very much. Super supporter links are down in the description below. It'd be great if you could suss them out. But I'm going to run upstairs and try and edit this and get it up for you before tonight. Been a bit busy this weekend with birthdays and whatnot. Hope you're all well and happy and your gardens are booming, and I'll catch you next clip. Cheers, folks. Have a top one.